to go. Heel spills on the bathroom floor. Blood stains mark a map of gold.
All right, guys. Crowbar Gym, downtown Leesburg.
You left your home, and I'll take you away.
All right, got a little intro there. All right. Hope everybody's doing well. And today's going to be something a little bit different. I'm going to be making more videos. Okay. This one is a recording, so it's not live, just because this way I can set it up just a little bit easier. All right. Today we're going to look pretty much at two professionals. Okay, one of them is Nick Delgado. See if I can get this guy going up here. There we go. All right, and he is a plant-based doctor. He has a clinic down actually in Florida, and I've read a lot of his stuff, and I've met people that have actually dealt with his theory, and I've actually used his theory as well. And so we're going to go off of that. There's also a study that they list in here that I think is tremendously beneficial for people to actually see and hear, because what I'm really trying to do is trying to bring health and just really basic, good quality content that will benefit people in the long run, instead of, these fad diets that people are on, and, everything else that's out there that's just like nonsense. Because too many people are honestly just eating poor quality food, or they think this is better or that's better, whatever the case is. All right, so we're going to get right to it. And pretty much the title of this is off his page, but I'm going to be putting it on mine. Okay, ripped abs with 80% whole food carbs and 3% protein, proven by the metabolic study. Okay, and I'm going to play this in a couple seconds. There's years ago when I was in school, mostly college, I did a paper on how technically our body functions with how on a hormonal level with food. And I was looking more into athletic endeavors, like track and field, football, baseball, things like that. Stuff where you're technically going more than 45 minutes, or even like lifting weights, like strongman training, things like that. And the data out there is fairly good on the fact that you need carbohydrates, you need glycogen in the muscles to technically function, especially if you're doing any long endurance training, things like that. But we're going to approach this mostly from a muscle building standpoint, and we're also going to approach it from a scientific standpoint, because this is something I'm trying to bring to the table here. A lot of people out there, they're just going through these fad diets, and even I had somebody the other day tell me like, oh, I have a nutritionalist, and I'm like, okay, what is the nutritionalist saying to you? And I was like, oh, just go on a low carb, and and I kind of look at that, I'm like, wow, that's great claps, right, for you, nutritionalist. At the end of the day, the best way of intaking food, if you're going to be, really like to the T, like, hey, what do I need for my athletic endeavor, right, is actually, getting a nice little app phone like this or a piece of paper, and then finding out how much protein you need, how much carbs you need, and then how much fat you need, right, and sticking to real food as much as possible, right, and we can tolerate things, and that's just from a physique standpoint, how much calories you need, stuff like that, how much sleep do you need, and all these other things. And the reality of it is that there's really no excuse now not to be able to do these things, because we have apps like Whoop, we have our phones. It's becoming a lot easier to stop making excuses at the end of the day. And I'm also doing this podcast off of this, because usually about now, so right now we're on the 3rd, 2021. So we were like, technically like 3 months in. People have given up on their, people have given up on their what's it called? Their New Year's resolution and all their things that they're trying to do. And, it's like, and all their goals and everything else. So this is going to be a long-term thing that you can do and you can effectively do. So I'm going to start now. I ran my mouth plenty there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play this. Okay.
For a
going to enjoy this. Here we go. I'm going to chime in on an interesting scientific discourse about protein and carbs. And it's going to blow your mind because carbs have what's called a protein sparing effect. I'll remind you during the course of this talk what I mean by that. Here we go. Let's jump right in.
Science behind weight loss, the actual use of carbohydrates in weight loss. Because lately, I've just been getting overwhelmed with.
So he doesn't talk about this guy and who he is. It's actually in the description. But this guy is actually a physique. He does physique competitive. He's a competitive physique guy. As far as I know, he's got a big YouTube channel. I definitely say check him out. He's on the right track. He's not a whole food plant-based diet guy, but he's definitely got the right track. And also, he has a lot of good science to prove it. So we'll get back to this.
Even in the comment section of this video, people will jump in and say, if you eat carbohydrates, it spikes your insulin. If it spikes your insulin, it prevents fat loss and promotes body fat storage. And I want to go ahead and kind of just dispel that rumor, because one of the first things you learn in exercise physiology is that our bodies are always both burning body fat and storing body fat. So that's not what we need to worry about. What we need to worry about is the net energy balance throughout the day. So when it comes to dieting for fat loss, you need to make sure that you're in a caloric deficit. You can diet on just carbohydrates. You can diet on very low fat. In fact, I want to show you some studies where they did a few interesting things. Now, the important thing about these studies that I'm going to mention is they were done in a metabolic ward setting. That means a person has to check in to basically a hotel, and everything they do is tracked, so that it's not just you're trusting someone's thoughts on what they recall they ate, what they think they ate, what they weighed. No, these people were given a diet and they were tested throughout the process to find out.
So mind you, this is a controlled study. I mean, I'm like to the T. There's not a survey or anything else. He's going to iterate this as well. And we're talking about real food, guys. We're not talking about a fad. They just wanted to see what's going on with all this process. So we keep going with it.
This study was done in 2016 by Hall et al. And they actually took two.
Okay, this is really critical. Did you hear what he said?
All right, so this is Nick Delgado. Okay, he's a doctor. He runs a clinic, like I said. He's wrote some great, phenomenal books. If you guys don't have his books, I have never written a book, but I intend to one day. And I'm pretty much diving into his stuff. His stuff is really good, really solid stuff.
Went into a metabolic ward, a hospital. They documented everything eaten. It wasn't just hearsay, a questionnaire saying I ate this much protein, fat, or carbohydrate. And
that's a point to make, okay, guys? Most of the time, people when you ask anybody, like, what are you doing for your diet? One, most people don't remember, okay? They have no idea. They have no idea of their portions. They have no idea. And the ones that do are really not listening to this kind of stuff. If they are, they're doing it from a research space, okay?
Or even taking pictures of the food. It was the actual caloric intake. This is where every study ignores it, and this is the true science. And by the way, I think this should impress you a little bit. This is a picture of me. Here, if I could get it. I'm sorry.
This book is out of print. You can't get it, but if you guys find it, tell me and I'll buy it off of you.
Yeah. Be Fit and Pain Free, one of my earlier books. Just totally shredded on.
And that's him in that picture. And he looks like a natural bodybuilder, guys. He's not, on drugs or anything of that nature. And I have nothing against, performance enhancements. But the reality is that we're if you talk to anybody who knows anything, most of the stuff that you see in the magazines, that's all nonsense stuff. It's not going to work for you. Okay. They're selling you junk. They're selling you crap. Okay. And they're selling you dreams and hopes. But as you can see in the picture, he's lean. He's just ripped. I mean, that's the reality. Mind you, he did this with carbs. He was eating carbohydrates. Okay.
What? You're about to find out. Let's jump in a little bit further and listen closely.
Two groups and gave them the exact same amount of calories. The difference being one group was put on a very low carbohydrate diet, one group was put on a very low fat diet. The interesting thing there was that the group that was put on a diet of 6% carbohydrates versus a group that was put on a diet of 48% carbohydrates, but given the same protein and the same calories, got the same results.
Okay, so consider that. 48% carbohydrate versus 6% carbohydrate. The same results. I would go so far as to say the smarter thing would be to push the carbs up to 80%, and you'll get even better results. Check this out. Here we go.
So I hear what you're saying, Paul. Well, okay, so maybe carbohydrates aren't bad, but if they get the same results, why would you want to consume carbohydrates if you could have more fats? Well, let's talk a little bit about that. The next study I want to talk about was also done by Hall. And here they took obese men, 19 of them, and they put them on a diet of 2,740 calories for 5 days. They then, after that, set their baseline, and then they set their diet at 1,918 calories for 6 days.
All right, now I'm going to make a point here because this is important. That's a fairly good number for calories, okay? Especially when they're actually guiding these guys and actually knowing what they're eating. And 2,000 is usually the average person eats around 2,000 and or more. And I've already had a couple studies. I'm not remembering the name of it, but when you bring someone's calories down to 1,900, the beauty about it is that almost effortlessly, no matter what portion of protein, carbs, or whatever micronutrients you want to go to, people lose weight right off the bat just because of the fact that you're bringing down the calories. It's a long haul, but it can be done. And this is, depending on what kind of thing you want to use in the sense of a tactic, bringing down your calories around that term, around that number, it's actually beneficial. For long-term weight loss in a slow manner. You're probably seeing maybe 1 pound out of the week, maybe 2 pounds out of the week, specifically if you're training. This is a good maintenance area too as well. So I'm gonna go back to the video here. Just gonna get right into it. Just kind of want to throw my 2 cents in there.
Again, in a metabolic ward setting for a deficit of around 822 calories per day.
Deficit.
Now the difference
Remember
here
that.
is that one group got their fat very high, one group got their carbohydrates very high, but both groups kept their protein exactly the same. So what was interesting was that the group that was a high fat group, their fat oxidation increased exponentially early on, which you could understand because they were ingesting more total fat. But this soon ceased. They hit a plateau. The carbohydrate group, when their carbohydrates went up, their carbohydrate oxidation went up, but it never stopped, actually leading to a greater fat loss.
A greater fat loss on extremely high complex carbohydrates. Now remember, what he first said was on the higher fat diet, there was more fat burned, but that's because there was more fat in the diet. But on the high complex carbohydrate diet, and he didn't define whether it was complex or simple carbohydrates. So let's go further to make sure we get the story right.
So this could indicate that by taking in a higher carbohydrate-based diet, if protein and calories are equal, you could lose more body fat. They also noticed in the reduced carbohydrate group that the protein oxidation increased, and they postulated that this could perhaps lead to skeletal muscle loss. So what does this all mean for us?
Okay, let's get clear about that. On the low carbohydrate intake, there was more skeletal muscle loss. That's not good.
That's definitely not good.
I'm going to repeat again. High, particularly complex carbohydrates, have a protein-sparing effect. When you study the book Fit at Any Age,
this is important,
by one of the greatest bodybuilders in history, arguably Lee Haney. Here, take a look.
There you
Fit
go.
At Any Age. This
Great book, by the way, guys. If you don't have it, pick it up.
500 grams. That's right, 500 grams of complex carbohydrates every day, even leading up to the time of competition. He doesn't cut his carbs like every misguided bodybuilder.
Exactly.
He's basing it on a lot of misleading studies, but Hall is doing these studies in a metabolic ward. So let's go further and listen closely.
when it comes to dieting down, getting lean, and keeping muscle. In my mind, I don't think that we should demonize any one group, okay? I think we should focus on a balanced approach. My personal favorite approach to getting people shredded is to keep carbohydrates in the diet and actually keep them in the diet as high as possible, while also keeping our fat and our protein in a range that is going to promote our health, our well-being, our performance, and our recovery.
Okay, get that clear. Keep the carbohydrates as high as possible while keeping the fat and protein in a range that meets all the needs. Let's go further. Please pay attention. This is critical for you to get outstanding results as an athlete, as a housewife who's been struggling with body fat. My new book's coming out very shortly.
Pick it up, guys. I already got it.
Estrogen dominance and hormonal balances, but let's go further.
I also will include high carbohydrate refeed days and diet breaks. Now, there's been some really cool research on diet breaks, which are basically week-long to 2-week-long extended increases in calories back to maintenance, where it shows that more body fat is lost and more muscle is kept over time. Now, as a competitor myself and as somebody who diets down and gets shredded, every couple of years to do competitions, here's what I notice. When I restrict carbohydrates for a few days, I start to notice a deflating look in my muscles.
Okay, so he's telling you he keeps his carbs high when he's getting shredded, but if he decreases his carb intake, he deflates. His muscles lose that full look. It's necessary to be hydrated. And when you go to more protein, you get dehydrated. It takes 8 times more water to digest every gram of protein as it does to digest grams.
So this is important, guys. When someone's going on a low carbohydrate diet, most of the gains that you guys see are really just water weight. Like the water weight just comes off. I'm sorry, the water weight's just coming off. So 9 pounds of water weight is literally off your face, off your body, and that's really where you're losing the body fat. Okay, and it's not body fat; it's just water. Okay. That's what you're doing. It's very detrimental. I've seen it here in the gym, and I've seen it in other endeavors, in other training cycles that I've done in different sports, and including martial arts. When you go this route, you just don't have much for your workouts, And this is why I'm trying to give you guys the good stuff. Okay, this is the route you need to be going to. All right, more carbs. All right. So we're going to continue on here, and mind you, the gentleman prior to that, who's handing out the study here from Hall, he's a professional physique guy. He technically diets once out of the year, hard, okay, and then throughout the year he's trying to put on muscle. Now he looks great, and if you look at him, he's fairly lean, and but I guarantee you he probably eats more carbohydrates than we all do. Okay, just because of the fact that usually if he's training, you're going to be able to do that. So let's get back to task here, and let's see what else is going on.
Of carbohydrate. He hasn't even mentioned that yet, but here we go.
Start to notice my performance wanes, and the leaner I get, the more pronounced that becomes. However, when we add in some carbohydrates, well, lo and behold, we will actually see our muscle bellies fill back out. Our performance will actually improve, and this is why
his performance improves, his muscle bellies fill out. It's critical to get this.
Now I'm going to pause this here. All right, when we used to do cutting for wrestling and sambo competitions, they're Russian jacket wrestling, I've seen guys been able to cut almost 35 pounds to 20 pounds of water weight. Just, using a bag suit, getting in the sauna, and doing very light workouts and stuff like that. I myself have been able to cut down a good 10 pounds of water weight off my body as well. It's not pleasant. Okay, it is not pleasant, and I don't recommend it. But this method, I've seen older guys who used to wrestle use the carbohydrate model. I never did it, and I knew it worked, but I never thought it worked effectively, because once I never did it, and I was being sold by the brainwashing of the fitness magazines. But the reality is that's not the case. Okay, definitely you can cut on a carbohydrate diet.
if you're an athlete, it makes a big difference how you look on stage. Take a look at Joshua Self, who I've personally guided, and looking phenomenal, probably the best he's ever looked in his life as a physique competitor. I'll share with you images of him soon.
I think having carbohydrates during a fat loss phase is so important because we don't want to have our performance negatively impacted for long periods of time in the gym. These long periods of time of detraining or training with less weight can actually result in a loss of lean body mass that we've worked so hard to build.
Now that's important, guys. You want, so this is why you train, okay? And I'm not, when I say training, we're not doing running or something ridiculous like that. We're using weights, guys. We're using weights because you can technically load the body with, with a stimulus that's consistently going to be used in a manner where you can adapt. Okay, so here at the Crowbar Gym, we have an adaptive resistance exercise machines. I take people who've been lifting all their lives, okay, and I put them on these machines, and the machine gives them the right ratio of weight that they need, how much time under load they need, and then even though they've been lifting a lot, they're like, oh man, this is very strenuous on the muscles, all the way to failure where they can't do it anymore. So, and weight training is the key for you to lose, body fat, okay, in conjunction with a diet that he's talking about, a high carbohydrates. Now, mind you, this coach here, he's actually talking about a still more meat-centric diet where you're talking about 20% maybe, protein from meat is in there. Delgado over here is a whole food plant-based diet, and his motto actually goes deeper into more carbohydrates, almost 80% out, 10%, protein from meat. All right. And, it's not about veganism or anything of that nature. It's about what is more effective. And the reality is you can use carbohydrates to cut. So I'm going to iterate that again. All right. So we get back to task here and make sure we get this. I'm going to start playing play. All right.
So the next question is, if carbohydrates aren't bad, why are they?
Okay. He said you'll sustain or experience a loss of lean body mass.
And that's true.
When you drop the carbohydrate intake.
Yep.
There's a lot of reasons for that, but let's go further.
It's so demonized. And I think a lot of it comes down to the sources of carbohydrates. You see,
important,
most times we aren't promoting whole grains, vegetables, and fruits. When we see carbohydrates, we see things like donuts and pancakes. And
a donut's not an apple, guys.
That are so easy to over-ingest. But they're also not just carbohydrates. In fact, the composition of most of the foods that people consider high carb actually have just as much fat. And so you're not just getting a higher carbohydrate diet, you're getting a higher carb and a higher fat diet. The important thing here.
So let's make a point here. When you tell somebody, hey, have a potato for lunch, right? And I can't have a potato. Potatoes make me fat. They'll make you fat, right? Because they've been doing so much low carb. And the issue is that you're going, okay, that's nonsense because you take one potato, right? And if I remember correctly, it has like 60 calories or something ridiculous like that, right? Maybe 100 if anything. And it has fiber, guys. It has fiber. And then if you went to the store and you went like, let's say Logan's or something like that, of course they're going to put sour cream. They're going to put cheese on it, right? Maybe some meat or some beans, who knows what else, right? So now your potato that's 60 calories to 100 calories, right? Guess what? Now with all that junk on it, it's probably 2,000. It's probably maybe 3,000, depending on if it was a potato put in grease and then they got, technically they put it in the oven. So we're mixing disciplines here. And, when you take a potato like that and you just eat it with other toppings like corn, you can put veggies in there, all sorts of stuff. That we're talking about two different things, man. Okay, so this is why people are confused and they don't know what they're doing. Go back.
That you're actually paying attention to your fat intake. The study by Hall also postulated that the group that had the higher carbohydrate intake and lower fat intake actually noticed a decrease in ghrelin, which was the hunger signaling hormone. So they actually had a little bit less hunger. Insulin is also another hormone that helps us feel satiety. So while
satiety,
we
guys,
avoid satiety, we might actually be triggering more hunger down the road. So overall, what is...
Okay, so he's sharing with you gems.
Yep.
It helps with satiety. You're satisfied with the higher carbohydrate. But he said, watch your fat intake. Keep that low. Increase your complex carbohydrates. And by its very nature, from whole plant-based foods, he mentioned whole grains and vegetables and so forth. Take a look. Here's a quote. Hopefully I can zero in on it. Right from Lee Haney's book, Fit at Any Age. How much protein should you consume per serving? Okay, he goes on to say, for Mr. Olympiad, he was getting 40 to 75 total grams per day. That is all that was needed of protein. That's averaging 20 to 30 grams of protein per day. And that is for one of the greatest Mr. Olympiads. I think he won, 8 Mr. Olympiads in a row? I think only 1 or 2 bodybuilders besides Arnold ever exceeded 8. I think Arnold did maybe... I think Lee Haney exceeded Arnold's record. By the way, speaking of Arnold, Arnold has gone about 80% plant-based. Here's an early magazine. Look at this, special collector's issue. I have an actual signature from Arnold in one of his early books. And this is Muscle Mag here. So there's some great pictures of Arnold. Arnold in the day. Yep. But yeah.
Yeah, and so definitely Arnold Schwarzenegger he's friends with James Cameron, and he pretty much is gone more plant-based. He still eats meat, guys, so it's not like he doesn't, and he probably eats like a good 20% of it, maybe 30% of it, off and on here and there, but he is more plant-based now. And surprisingly, when you talk to vegan bodybuilders that go to all these shows and they have their vegan booth there and all that stuff, veganism, by the way, it is a political statement versus the diet, a whole food plant-based diet that is technically a better diet with technically they call it SOS free. So that's salt, so no salt, no sugar, no what's it called? No oil, specifically oil. If anything, very low. Okay, very low on those things, and because there's just condiments that we can use. But that is the reality. So more of those old bodybuilders are going towards a heavier carbohydrate, clean carbs, guys, clean. Okay, and that's the reality. But at the end of the day, when you really think about it, what sells, guys? What sells? I sell you a tub of protein, for $60, and you're going to buy it because those are the things that make money for the industry at the end of the day, selling you protein, selling you vitamins and all kinds of stuff like that. If I told you, you can get ripped and lean if if you just eat some broccoli, how can I sell you broccoli for like, $20, $45 or whatever, or $50, and you're going to laugh in my face.
Let's go further. I'm having fun. I hope you're having fun too. But let's get to the.
I am having fun.
This is the best approach. This is the most important aspect, and it comes down to what works best for you within the guidelines of what the best approach is. As far as protein, as far as fats, you need to pay attention to things like foods that you enjoy and things that you can actually eat and not overeat. Things that you can include in your diet that improve satiety, improve performance, but don't put you at a risk for overeating, over-consuming, okay?
And I want to mention, obviously, bodybuilders, those who admit it, or in the early day, Arnold admitted taking steroids.
Yep.
Because in those days it was legal, it was appropriate. But I wanted to have you take a look at one of my favorite bodybuilders, Ronnie Coleman. Amazing. It shows him gaining 70 pounds of solid muscle and how he did it. Here's a before-after picture of him in 1992 versus, I'm not sure the timetable here. But, of course, Ronnie paid a big price. He ate a lot of meat and animal product, and it damaged, I would purport, and I have studies to show this, I'll pull that up if you like, but it drew calcium, magnesium, zinc right from his bones, and it led to osteoporosis and hip weaknesses and hip fractures.
So you might not believe this, but this is real. This happens, okay? And it happens to athletes all the time, and it does happen to normal people. The more you drink milk, the more you eat animal products, tons of protein and stuff like that, you're in a going into the bad route for your health, guys.
High carbs protect the lean body mass and the bones. Here, let's go further, though. This is interesting.
I'm not a proponent for someone eating junk food if they're going to eat that junk food and just crave more of it. When we're in a caloric restriction, or we're tracking our diet, or we're paying attention to our body composition, it is certainly going to be important that you look at food sources that you can enjoy, eat consistently, and still fit some treats in that are going to work for your goals. It's all about the budget you set for yourself with your diet, okay? People have lost weight on McDonald's diets. People have lost weight on croissant diets. People have lost weight eating any food they want as long as they're in a caloric deficit. However, just because they're in a caloric deficit and losing weight doesn't mean they're setting themselves up for long-term benefits and performance. And as long as you're watching this video, I know that your goal is to have the most muscle and the best body composition you can do and make it sustainable for the long term. So
Yep, long-term sustainable.
This is a good book, guys.
Here's one of my early books, How to Look Great and Feel Sexy. Revitalize your energy in 9 days. To reduce body fat and reach your ideal level, over 600 recipes, whole plant-based natural foods. And one of my favorite chapters in here is where I go into here, check this little cartoon out. My workouts, let's see, I had it focused, sorry. My workouts are going great. I feel energized. What a difference since I switched to the complex carbohydrate, potatoes, whole grains, vegetables, and fruit. And then down below, the cartoon guy goes, I'm on a high protein diet. I can't understand why I always feel so tired. I don't feel like exercising. I have all these original cartoons written in my book, and by Saltero, who is the same artist that did all the Tony Robbins artwork. And here's another cartoon. Wow, I lost 8 pounds this month on my high carbohydrate Delgado plan. I really do look great. And then on the other side, it goes, I don't understand it. I lost 20 pounds this month, yet I look so flabby. That's right. We have copies of this book you could get on Amazon, but if you contact our office, we'll give you a special deal and get you a signed copy. This book withstands the test of
Got
time.
mine already.
There's a cool chapter in this book on, here we go, page 39. Let me just turn to that for you. And in this section, it's probably still to this day the most accurate discourse of protein requirements. Here we go. Protein. It says rat's milk has 25% protein compared to 6% protein in human milk. Sorry, I'm trying to get that focused. It says a rat, I need this meat to grow. And then a human, I need fruits, vegetables, potatoes for energy and sustaining muscle.
All right, so let me recap on that. So he's done a great service, Mr. Nick here. He has a couple of studies on how protein became such an important thing, and it's actually done off of a rat study. Rats do really well with protein, and we took that data and we ran with it. But it doesn't, that rat is not like a monkey. That's, we would say, a little bit closer to our eating pattern. A rat is not us. It is a small animal. It does great with protein, like a lots amount of it. Actually, it does poorly with other things. We do poorly having so much protein in our diet, and you just don't need that much of it. And he has other Nick Delgado has other studies that he actually recommends too as well. So that's where it's coming from technically in that regard. Let's see what else we got going on here.
Okay.
of your goal weight. I'm going to suggest you set your fats at no lower than 20% of your daily total intake. And how do you figure out what your caloric deficit is? I'm going to link a video below to give you exact instructions on how to do that. You can also click the link on prophysique.com. And
okay, guys, so some questions are coming in, and these are...
All right, here we go. We're going to 2 more points, okay, that I'm going to elaborate on, okay? When he said, when he said, hey, you can pretty much lose body weight, body fat, right, on almost anything, and he's right. I've seen it done with multiple different schemas. Even I've seen people eat fast food and lose weight as well. Mind you, there is a caloric deficit, meaning that the calories are low. Okay, and this is the problem with the concept. The more you do these kind of fad diets, the longer you have to be in almost 700 to 500, calories for day after day, week after week, until you get to the goals that you're trying to get to. And it's very detrimental. There's a hormonal issue that happens when you eat trash, okay, in general. So if you eat, a lot of milk, for example, butter, oil, the salt stuff, the salt and the sugar are, at the end of the day, those are neurological killers right there. That can, lead into other things that I'm not going to get into. But definitely sugar is like, you have to stay away from that as much as possible. That's why, and he's talking about is most people are doing these fads. They're getting into a scheme that hits the pleasure trap. So satiety is a thing that they were talking about in here. And satiety means is that you could technically feel that you are full for the day, right? Because we actually run off not calories. We actually do well if our stomach is full with weight, okay? And if the food that you're eating is whole food and it's dense, okay, but it's low in calories. So let's say you have a bucket of apples, right? You're never going to eat 10 apples out of that bucket. It's not going to happen. You're probably going to eat 2 or 3. The reason why is because the fiber in the food gives you the ability to feel full for a couple of hours or even more, okay? So you have that satiety. Also, too, your blood sugar levels and your insulin and everything else, it regulates, and you don't have these high spikes. When you're on doing keto and any of that stuff like that, you're doing keto or low carb, what ends up happening is that you want the carbohydrates, so therefore, you are unfortunately going to feel that hunger hormone kick in, specifically if you're also doing tons and tons of cardio. And you don't want to do cardio while you're cutting. You want to do enough of it, but not overwork yourself. And too many people are burning the candle at both ends here, and they're trying to work their way out of a poor eating plan, okay, and they're not thinking the long term. That's why the 80% carbohydrates is a better plan, because you actually retain more muscle mass. You actually can fill up, right? Your workouts are better, right? Your performance is better. And then it doesn't take you that long to cut some calories away in the long run. When, you let's say it takes you 2 weeks to get lean, to lose like 4 or 5, a good inches off the waist, right? Or get lean, right? People do it. They've done it. So this is a superior way of actually losing body fat. All right. Let's see what else we got going on here. Go to the next phase. He's going to go through some of his emails. They're actually pretty good. Some of the questions that they asked.
Great questions. Let me just highlight this, and we're going to turn this into a blog, I promise. Danny, we can get this uploaded by tomorrow.
And I would suggest recommend his site to you. It's really phenomenal.
Let me just
He's out of Florida
on this, and I'm going to read it with you together so you get this really clear, because questions are coming in. Makahi Durham says, okay, I've been vegan, vegetarian, keto. I need help. I'm 45 pounds overweight. Got it. Adrian Gutierrez, doctor, I've been cooking without oil. Never thought it was so easy. Nice. And she goes, what kind of healthy carbohydrates do you recommend? I love it. You just tune in. You're one of my best fans. I love it. Thank you so much for the questions. Here we go. I highlighted this so you can follow along with me, and I just wrote this tonight for you in time for this show. The higher, let me just preface this, to get shredded, I mean shredded, muscular, shredded, fit,
work, guys,
thighs,
hard work,
nice abs,
discipline,
good chest, looking really good. By the way, I'm in the midst of a very high intensity training program. I've got a training partner that can finally keep up with me. It shows up every day to train whenever I'm ready to train. So I think my 6th day into training, the first 5 days, sore every muscle because I'm doing.
All right, guys. So I'm going to make another point here. Nick here, he loves to train every day. Guess what? You guys don't have to. Specifically, if you're doing a high intensity, high tension training style that we do here at the gym, at Crowbar Gym. Because he loves to train. All his training is probably like, he loves a lot of cardio. He loves a lot of, doing tons of sets and reps and stuff like that. He loves doing that kind of stuff. And, that works, and high volume training works, but you don't need it. Twice a week is perfectly fine. 3-day split is perfectly fine. Even once a week is perfectly fine. Okay, they all work from a high intensity training. I recommend looking at Doug McGuff's Body by Science if you haven't. And I'm going to do a video on that too as well, and then we're going to continue on with this presentation.
Very high intensity training, kind of Mike Mentzer style, Dorian Yates, but even taking it beyond that. And if you want, I'll drop in a few clips coming up. Danny,
and he's definitely not doing
high
a
intensity stuff we were
high
showing,
intensity style, because he's doing every day.
Partner, right?
So that's not what he's doing.
Pull those clips. What's that? Yeah. Okay. So here we go. We're going to be able to share these clips, but let me go back into this and make it really clear, and just pay attention, because this is going to answer all your questions about fat loss, energy, and remember, no soap.
No soap.
My good friend there, Adriana. Are you on the East Coast? I think it is. Yeah. No soap means no sugar, no oil, no animal product. The closer you get to that, the more you're going to reach your goal sooner.
Faster, guys.
With high energy, looking great, with good muscle belly. Here, check this out. Okay, to get these results, the higher the grams of complex carbohydrates, towards 70 to 80% of calories, which means if you're taking in, say, 3,000 calories, 80% of 3,000 calories, there's 4 calories per gram. That makes it, what is that? I'd have to do the math on that. I'll come back to that in a moment. But also drop the fat as low as 3% fat and 6%, 3 to 6% protein, like human breast milk. You'll be in positive nitrogen balance. The best way to accomplish this is provided one takes into account sequencing. Start each meal.
Important right here.
Lunch, dinner. I know it seems strange for breakfast, but your greens, your yellow vegetables, your vegetable soups, your veggie salads, oil-free, sugar-free salad dressings, then fruit.
So he's doing a tactic, okay? So for a lot of you out there, if you guys are not doing your macros and you don't know what your calories are and anything like that, and to be honest with you, I don't want you to do that stuff. If you're a professional, like a physique professional or something of that nature, or if you're an athlete and you have the time, yeah, go ahead. Get yourself a phone, a journal, know what you're taking in, okay? But he's doing something called sequencing, okay? It's a tactic that helps you with the ability to cut weight, okay? There's also the McDougall plan, also too. There's another doctor that I talk about. He has his own version of it as well, and I'm going to do a video on that as well. But what he's doing is called sequencing. What he does is he eats, okay? He'll eat, all right? He'll eat vegetables first. Yes, vegetables in the morning, guys. Vegetables. Then he'll eat. The second thing he'll eat is, fruits, and he continues down the line for more starchy carbohydrates. Okay, and what that does is, if you're eating, at the end of the day, specifically, you have to lose a lot of weight. Okay, if you do it that way, the non-starchy vegetables will get you fueled up quickly. Will also provide you the fiber to technically have that, the hunger hormone turn off. and you'll just feel better. And then by the time you'll time you get to the fruit, you might not even want to have that potato or maybe that piece of bread. Okay, and this way you don't have to lose sleep over like, what am I eating tomorrow? Did I prep my food or whatever the case is, right? So you don't have to do it. McDougall does almost kind of like a plan like that. He does a 50-50 plate. By the time you're leaning out, okay, you're eating all vegetables. I mean, that's really what it is. So it's a little different tactic, but it's kind of like the same thing. And sequencing is one of the better ways of doing it if you don't want to sit there and, carry a scale everywhere you go.
Then go to starchy vegetables, potatoes, a little bit heavier calorie. Then to beans, which have much more calories, but a lot of fiber, which makes them still on the plan. Nuts and seeds, which have the most calories, soaked nuts and seeds. Avocados, olives, they have the most. And then ancient grains mixed in there, depending on any kind of, say, delayed food allergy issues. And this will help you to reduce body fat while sustaining muscle and gaining weight, or gaining muscle while reducing body fat. Now, here, let me just jump to now here, I'll drop it right here. Okay, so, or to gain weight while building muscle, go in reverse sequence.
You just reverse the
Consume food categories beginning with the highest caloric consumption of foods, such as yams, nuts, seeds, coconut, avocado, black rice, beans, and then potatoes, then the lower calorie foods, fruit, and last.
So when you're out of season, right, and specifically like in the wintertime, and you're trying to bulk as much as possible, okay, eating backwards in this manner where you're eating, starchy carbohydrates. We're talking about beans, legumes. We're talking about yams and potatoes, and then of course we're real fat, guys, real fat, and we're not talking oil. Okay, so stay away from that junk. All right, heavy duty on all these whole foods. You'll put on muscle mass. Okay, you will, because all that stuff has phytonutrients, guys. Okay, there's no nutrition in animal meat. There's nothing. Mind you that these animals get fed grain all day long and grass, and they grow big. Monkeys too, as well. They also eat, bananas and stuff. Maybe once in a while they'll have a raid and they cannibalize other monkeys. But the reality is that they're all eating plants, guys. They're all eating plants, and that's why it's protein sparing. Okay, and so if you want to bulk up throughout the year, okay, you want to put on solid muscle, be powerful, explosive, you need those carbs. I have people in this gym, they're like, how, they were off for 2 weeks. And I said, how did you feel? Did you, stay kind of close to your eating plan? Oh yeah, man, I ate great. And of course, great. And I go, what does that mean? And they go, oh man, I had steaks and I had lobster. And they're telling me how much meat they took in. Because, I put them on a different plan. And I'm like, oh, okay, so you went back to your old. No, but I didn't eat trash. I ate real food. And I'm like, okay, but you had a lot of meat. And they come back after 2 weeks because, mind you, training every day is not something you need. Okay, you need to recover. Their numbers go down by 40%. But if the person listens and they keep that carbohydrate high, they keep it high, and they're still eating semi-clean. Okay, but the carbohydrates, it's close to 60 to 70%. The protein's low. They come back, better recovery. They put on a good pound of good pound of weight for muscle. They're fuller, okay, and they just look better. And this is what you want to do during your off season, like before you want to technically lean out, right? So you want to lean out closer to springtime and summer, so because you're going to take off your shirt and all that good stuff. And you can also keep this as a maintenance plan too, as well. Throughout the year, you just eat a nice, well-balanced, meal. You have maybe, fish or chicken once in maybe a steak here, but preferably it'd be better from a health perspective just to drop all the animal products. But that's for you to decide, not for you to be pushed into. So let's see what else he's got to say. Okay.
The least amount per each meal would be green salads, yellow vegetable squash, casseroles, and veggie soups.
Look at the variety, guys.
So keep in mind that the easiest thing is to get enough protein because plant carbs spare body proteins.
Yep.
always the body must meet its energy needs first, and it'll derive the energy needs from plant foods that have sufficient complex carbohydrates and mixed in the protein for necessary for building and repair. Mike Mentzer was right. It's been proven now. Enzymes recycle about 150 grams of protein a day, and 30 grams come from intestine recycling. That gives every human over 180 grams of protein, which is from the entire amino acid pool before one even takes a bite of food.
And this is Mike Metzer's method too. He did this. This is a plan that was done prior to the 60s. A lot of bodybuilders used this plan. A lot of doctors used this plan. And then it just got taken out of the rails. But Mike Metzer, the method that I use was used by Mike Metzer for lifting. It's called heavy duty and time under load type of workouts.
So what does that mean? That's why as little as 20 grams of protein taken in from the diet, 3% of calories, say of a 3,000 calorie diet, which is 9 grams of protein, actually helps the New Guinea natives have incredibly muscular, strong, ripped, muscular bodies.
This is like the Blue Zone guys.
That's all from consuming principally sweet potatoes and their leaves, making them in the world the lowest protein intake, the lowest fat intake, with the highest complex carbohydrate fat diet in the world. And to note, they
low fat.
And they did a study on 770
real fat guys.
New Guinea natives. They are free of diabetes, no cancer, no heart disease. When they do die, it's usually due to famine, lack of foods. So they don't get enough calories, and then their immune system.
And this is an interesting point to make. We live in an abundance world here. If you're in America, okay, if I want something in the middle of the night when it pertains to food, I can get it right off the bat. Okay, so we have no problem intaking a lot of calories from food, and it's called food density for a reason. You will eat, if you're doing a whole food plant-based diet or close to a high carbohydrate diet, you'll actually eat more calories, right? In the long run, you'll eat more food, eat less calories because the food density, and you'll realize that you're actually able to, stay leaner. You'll have more energy, and you'll just stay healthier and fuller at the end of the day. And he's talking about he's talking technically about a blue zone or something like a blue zone, if I remember correctly. And those are areas where the ability of the modern world is not there. And these people eat they eat like poor people. Okay, poor people don't eat a lot of protein. Okay, it is expensive to technically feed cattle, to feed, to keep livestock and all these other things. And if you did have a cow, okay, let's say you did, she has to get pregnant for you to even have milk for that, and then she'll have milk for the calf. And here we can get milk almost any time out of the day. So most people are not going to kill their chickens. Most people are not going to kill their beef stock, their cow right off the bat. They're going to technically either drink the milk or they're going to wait a year or two before they do anything of that nature. So we eat way too much meat. We eat way too much protein. And this is why we're having the health problems that we're having. We're thinking long term. So if you have inflammation, guys, osteoporosis, you have diabetes, type 2, all these other things, they're all attributed to inflammation. They're all attributed to called the SAD diet. Okay. And I'll make another video on that too. Let's get back on task. We're almost done. Okay. I'm going to show you the ARX just in case you're new to my channel.
Gets suppressed and they can die of an infectious disease or unclean water. Yet the protein intake that when you burn protein for energy leaves 30% waste byproduct. If you burn fat for energy, it leaves 7% waste product, while complex carbohydrates burn pure fuel, zero waste. The only excretion is carbon dioxide, which we exhale, and oxygen, and water we excrete via the urine or perspiration or out of the lungs, the breath. So check this out, how to get on high carb shredded. And I just wanted to make that note that that derivatives, yet protein intake. So yet to derive to, I just want to add this.
So he's going to do his homework there, and I'm going to cut this short, okay? And just in case you're new to my channel, what is Crowbar Gym? Okay, so pretty much we have ARX machines. RX. All right, let's see if I can put it down. There we go. And this is the kind of equipment we're using. Okay, right here. I'm going to see it really quickly. All right. Is it this one? Oh yeah, right here.
Reps are used.
Really close. This is the better. There we go.
So what? Well, there are many benefits to using ARX technology, but here's an overview of the most important
This
ones.
cutting edge
The first big
lifting
advantage is basic
right here.
effectiveness. We've isolated the most important elements of resistance training: mechanical tension, muscle damage, and metabolic stress. When your muscles are perfectly loaded 100% of the time,
This is the Omni.
magnitude of the stimulus to your body is maximized. This means that with ARX,
Leg
you
press
can
with the
surpass
Alpha.
strength, bone density, muscular development, and cardiovascular conditioning that you get using traditional tools like weights.
Okay, he's even doing the movement wrong.
So we know how effective ARX
Okay,
can be.
incline
Now
bench
let's
press.
talk about another big advantage: efficiency. When we perform resistance training, science has proven that we can control
Okay.
the descent of a far heavier weight than we are capable of lifting. With this in mind, the goal then should be to use
Nice
heavier
and
weights
smooth,
over time.
under
But
time,
how do
under
we use
tension,
the heavy
guys.
weights we're capable of lowering if we can't even lift them in the first place? With weights, it's not possible. We end up compromising.
So let me show you something quickly.
The type
All
of
right.
experience-
So here he talks about concentric. Okay, this is the positive lift. So let's say you're doing a bench, you're pushing forward. That's a positive. Okay, as you can see, you see the black lines right here. All right. Then I'm going to compare it to the negative effect. Okay, this is the negative. That's the positive. This is the negative here. Okay, you can lift about 40 to 80% on a negative lift. You can't duplicate that at a regular gym. All right, so I'm going to get back on task here. If you guys have never been to the Crowbar Gym, all right, I suggest you show up, try a free demo. Okay, I'm going to put the descriptions down below. Okay, the number, the website. All right, and the reality is that you need, if you've never done any kind of high intensity training, here we go. Okay, we got the website and we got the number. Call me, set up a time. It's a free introductory workout. We'll talk about your goals. We'll talk about what you're trying to achieve. Pretty much, I can do a lot of different things on the ARX. I can do powerlifting. Okay, I can do hypertrophy, meaning building muscle. I can do endurance. Okay, I can do rehab, post rehab. Okay, you need to be going to your rehab, but then you come to me. I'll make you better. I'll make you stronger. I'll make you faster, more explosive. All right, guys. So sign up for a free demo, and we'll take care of that. I also have Carol bikes here. If you've never seen a Carol bike, let me see if I can bring up the video. But the Carol bike is really a tool that I use in here. It's another smart tool. It's a biohacking tool at the end of the day. And a lot of the stuff here is the wave of the future. So if you never, all this stuff, you just pretty much come in here, you work out hard, you're going to, work out to the bitter end. And you're going to technically be challenged. Okay, the Carol bikes are just a regular old, just a regular old bike that technically adapts to your performance ratio. That's it, and that's pretty much how. Let's see if I can bring it up so you guys can see. All right, let's see if I can bring it up. Give me 1 second. Oh, there you are. Cool. And this is a smart bike. See if I can bring it up. These are smart bikes, guys. This is I'm not going to do any videos on this. There we go. Let's go.
Wealth-changing decision by making a very little change. Some of the world's leading scientists in fitness to deliver you the most efficient workout available today.
On your first ride, you will see only one option. Your date with Carol has begun. And like all things great, you need to take it slow.
You have to complete 6 introductory rides. The first 3 rides include 2 10-second sprints. The next 3 include 2 15-second sprints. Use these rides to get to know the protocol and Carol. Pedal slowly.
So this is a smart bike, guys. So it looks like there's not much going on there. The guy's doing it in the suit. He's doing it on purpose, okay, to show you that you don't actually need to sweat, your heart out to technically get a biological effect. Okay, they're talking about sprinting like we're like robbing a bank. Okay, to the bitter end, like what is it called? Like fight or flight. And what it does is he's going to sprint. And what it does is it opens up the muscle cell, okay, expels out all that energy. And the equivalent of the first protocol is an equivalent of, you do a 10-second sprint and you do it twice, okay? And then you do the next protocol is a 20-second sprint and you do it twice as well. And that's it. And that's like literally they say it's a jog, but there's people in here where they felt that they were running hard for 45 minutes, right? And the beauty about this kind of bike, it also adapts to you. So it never gets easy. I've had people who do 60 miles of bike riding, and they're professional bike riders, and that's what they do. And they're like, man, this bike is just kicking my butt. I thought I would be able to win and defeat it, and I would get eventually bored of it. And that's not what's going on. Not in any of that stuff. So it adapts. It consistently adapts because it is a smart bike. So these are the tools that I have here at the gym. Again, you have the number. Sign up for a free introductory workout, and let's see if they show it in here. It's just literally a sprint. See if he sprints there. There you go. No, that's not necessary, but I'll show you guys a real video of it, and we're going to sign out soon. And like I said, make sign up for a demo, and we'll talk. All right, guys, Crowbar Gym out.
Oh, it's trouble. What I find, where evil prevails on the night you left your